So I finally saw 28 Years Later, the sequel to the 2002 film starring Cillian Murphy. And yes, this is a sequel to the original 28 Days Later, not 28 Weeks Later, as the film retcons everything that happened in 28 Weeks Later, so it's irrelevant. And that already gave the film a strike for me. Danny Boyle returns to direct from a script by the original 28 Days writer, Alex Garland. And Alex Garland is a pretty accomplished screenwriter, so I went into this thinking probably be good since the original pair returned to this universe and give us a new story. Instead, what we get is a lackluster story with weird edits that made the film feel as if I was watching some Gen Z's TikTok, with the backdrop being infected or zombies, as they were in fact called zombies in this film. Anyway, it's been 28 years since the infected ravaged Britain. We are now following this family, Jamie, Isla, and Spike. They're living in this fortified island, and mother Isla is sick with some mysterious illness. When Jamie, the husband, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, decides that today is the right day to take young Spike out for his rite of passage. You know, this is what they all do in this town. They take their kids to the mainland to, I guess, do their first kill their first infected, because they weren't going out there to gather any food or anything like that. So after the mainland, they noticed somebody starting a fire, and they could see smoke, and they saw a man. And Spike returns home, and he tells his grandfather what he saw, and his grandfather tells him that he believes that's a doctor, that there used to be a doctor in the mainland that was his friend, and they decided to leave him there because they thought he went mad. And then Spike discovers something about his family that is disturbing to him, and it kind of breaks his world as he knows it. And he decides to take his mother to the mainland, to this doctor, to get better, because he presumes that the doctor can help her. So that's basically the story of the film. I'm gonna just get to the point. Honestly, I didn't like this movie at all, and I was a big fan of the original 28 Days Later, and I actually did like 28 Weeks Later. So like I said, when they retconned it and they eliminate everything that happened because France doesn't fall, there are other parts of the world that's still going on in this film, so there's gonna be spoilers in this review if you haven't seen the movie yet. So there will be spoilers. I will be talking about some spoilers in here. So the rest of the world has not fallen apart, which, you know, after you watch 28 Weeks Later, you think, oh, the rest of the world's going to fall France, and I want to see when it gets to America, what's going to happen then. So there are parts of the world that still continued on, as we see from another person that we meet later on. Spike meets somebody. But this is basically the story. Spike catches his father when he returns. His father's like praising Spike and lying about everything that Spike did while he was on the mainland. Now, Spike did kill one infected, but after that infected, he kind of like froze up, and his father had to take care of him. They had to hide, and then they had to run, and then there was this big monster infected that they call berserkers, I think. And this guy was chasing them, and he's humongous, and I think this is the same one. If not, there's one that just looks just like him. They had to take him down right then and there at the gate, and they wouldn't let them in. So his dad basically lying about what he did on the island, and he's kind of feels awkward about this. And then later he sees his dad cheating on his mother. Now, at this point in the film, I wanted to smack the kid when the kid like confronted his father about it and said I was being like real nasty, and I'm like, your dad saved your life. But the part where I wanted to smack him if he was my kid, but I don't have kids, so I don't have to worry about that. But like, I probably would feel different if, you know, I had kids. I probably wouldn't. But I wanted to smack the kid when he took out a knife. He took out a knife like he was gonna stab his dad or something. And Aaron Taylor Johnson does a decent job playing the dad. I believe him. I think he's a good actor. This kid, people are praising this kid. I will say for the first half of the film, I hated him, especially this whole scene where he discovers that there's a doctor on the island, and he's mad at his father because he caught his father cheating on his mom. So he's upset. And I get it when you look at it from the rest of the film, how that just destroyed his whole universe. His whole world has just been broken. He believed that he had a loving family, that his mom was sick, but that his dad and his mom were in love with each other. And then, you know, he goes with his dad to become a man, and goes out, and then his dad comes back and just lies. And then he sees his dad cheating, and then he's continued to lie. So I guess he believes, because he confronts his dad about the doctor, like, why didn't you tell me there was a doctor on the mainland? And he tells him, like, the guy's crazy. He's lost his mind. So I think he believes his dad's lying again. So he decides to take his mother to the mainland, and that's when I was like, this is ridiculous. The kid barely survived with his father. If he was a badass shot, I'd be like, go for it, kid, you could do it. But he wasn't. He was pathetic. So now this is even more dangerous. And then Aaron Taylor Johnson doesn't even go after him. And I understand that they don't let you go out. Like, if you go out, you're done. You have to stay out. Like, I guess. I don't remember. I don't know. He didn't even go look for his freaking kid. That's all I know. I was pretty pissed off about that. And then the movie's interesting from this point on when it's just the mother and the son a little bit. It gets better when there's this soldier named Eric from Sweden, I believe, or I forgot where he's from. He shows up, and that's where we see that technology in the real world, the outside world, has continued on. And he's basically kind of stuck there because once you get stuck on this island, the boats that surround the island are not letting you go back to wherever you came from at all. You're stuck there. Eric has to save Spike and his mom. And after he saves them, they go on a journey to find this doctor. I'm not going to spoil everything in this part because this is the most interesting part technically is up to here. I will spoil it. Eric and this kid, the mother runs off. She hears screaming, so she runs off into this abandoned like train. So she runs out and she runs, and we see that there's I was going to say walker. There's an infected that's pregnant that's giving birth. And the mother actually goes and she holds the hands of the infected. The infected is screaming, and then Isla goes and pulls the baby out. And after she pulls the baby out, she's looking at the baby, and the baby's eyes are normal. It's not infected. And then the mother gets up and screams, is about to attack Isla, and Eric shoots him, and that's where our big berserker guy, again, I think it's the same one, shows up and kills him. The kills are pretty good. That's one aspect of it. And the movie looks visually great, and it was all filmed on iPhones, from what I hear, which is also interesting. There were some edits and cuts that I really didn't like some stop motion, not stop motion, but like some they'll shoot and then the arrow would go and then freeze, or you do like a 360 around the arrow or something. It was interesting, but I didn't like it all the time. It got a little bit annoying. And then once they stop that, we get to the rest of the story, which is Spike taking him to the doctor, who's played by Ralph Fiennes, and we discover what the mother's illness is, which I thought it was going to be that the mother was bitten and she's not infected, but she's just like, her brain's crazy. Like, she just went crazy because she has the virus in her, and it's like the rage virus is in there, makes her crazy, but she's normal. But no, that's not it. They said she has cancer, and then he kills her. He kills the mom, and Spike has to put the skull on top of the bone temple, and that's it. Spike then takes the baby to the mainland, leaves a note at the gate of the mainland, and leaves the baby there and leaves. And so we hear Spike doing a voiceover saying he's going to stay at the mainland, and gives the baby to his father. His father runs out to go look for him now or whatever, which is like, what the fuck? Like, wow, way to wait. And then we see Spike in the mainland, and he's getting swarmed by infected, and all of a sudden these people show up. And this was like, what is this? What is this? This was so bizarre. Okay, so the beginning of the movie, we got a totally different little intro like we did with 28 Days and 28 Weeks Later that kind of had nothing to do with the movie, we thought, for the most part. Like 28, I don't remember 28 Days Later actually how that opened. Oh, it opened with the Rage, those people that went and they released the Rage virus. Okay, and then we follow our main Cillian Murphy character. Okay, but 28 weeks later we follow. But in 28 weeks later we follow these two kids and their parents. Oh no, not even the two kids. We follow the parents, and then later we discovered that they had kids or whatever. So that was interesting. 28 weeks later, that was like the coolest intro. Actually, it was like so messed up that the father did that. Okay. In this one, we have another story about a couple of white kids with blonde hair. They almost look albino, I was going to say. And they're staying in this house, and all of a sudden, like, the kid doesn't listen. His name is Jimmy, and they say, stay in here, don't do anything. And they're watching Teletubbies, and the kid opens the door and gets all the other kids killed. And then he runs out, and his mother's getting killed, and his aunt's getting killed. And then they tell him to run. So he runs to the church, and there's a priest there, and the priest is like his father, because he's his father. And his father kind of saves his life, and he gets attacked by the infected, and he turns infected. So this guy now, 30 years later, we're introduced to him, and he's dressed like some sort of like English gangster or something, and he has a squad full of albinos with the same color hair as him, and then it was so ridiculous. He's like, "Do you want us to help you?" Whatever. He's like, and then they jump down, they start whooping. It was so preposterous. It takes you out of the film, and then the film ends. Like, what? And then we're supposed to get a sequel, another film, one more. The Bone Temple or whatever, 28 years later, the Bone Temple. And I was just like, I don't care. I don't know. It was like, that was ridiculous, but it had some interesting elements in the beginning. I like Aaron Taylor Johnson's character in this. I thought he did well. I thought some of the parts in the film were good in the beginning. I like the Spike and Aaron Taylor Johnson together. I thought we were going to get a story of just them two. Instead, later on, I get the stories about this kid, and it's a coming of age story about kind of like how he grows up. It's the day he's supposed to grow up, and he kind of does grow up, and in a sense because he's betrayed and his whole world falls apart, and now he wants to get his mom better so his dad and his mom could be together. That's basically why. He loves his mother, he wants her to get better, but he wants because he knows the dad cheated, and he thinks the dad wants to be with her, and he thinks that this doctor could help his mother, and they can't, obviously. It would be good if the mother isn't dead, but they pretty much said she's dead. So the rest of the story is just like, I don't know. I really didn't like this movie, to be quite honest. I feel like the movie, like, it wasn't what it presented itself to be in the trailer. I felt like we could have had this movie with the father and him, and then I don't like the retconning they did in the film. I don't like how all of a sudden that these infected now eat things. They eat other things. Like, I thought they starved and they die, but no, they actually go and they eat stuff because while Spike is cooking a fish, he sees infected. He kills that one, and more run, and then one runs right to the fish and starts eating the fish while he's running away. So they eat things. I think that was showed the Berserker. I think he killed a deer or something earlier on. So there's a lot of stuff they don't explain. Like, I know there was a second outbreak. This is not part of the first outbreak, so maybe they evolved. Don't know how there's still so many still alive. I don't know. I don't get it. There's a lot of things that they didn't explore that they could have explored. And I'm not really so edgy. I don't really like these types of films where they're isolated in like an island or like what they did. Like, it was kind of interesting when once Spike and his mother were in the mainland, in the area of houses and things where you think they were going to go, but they don't. They go to like a gas station, and then they're still in the woods most of the time until they get to the doctor. So, like, I don't know. I'll see what the next one is. The next one's going to be about Jimmy and his albino friends as they go dressed like pimps to beat up infected or whatever. I don't know. I didn't like it. There's good elements in here, and there's some good things, but all in all, I'm going to give this 2 out of 5 stars. Really, for the acting. And the kid I didn't like, but there are points where he does a good job. So I think his name is Alfie Williams. So he plays Spike. He did a good job later on. And at one point, I just despised him. I was just like, I hate this kid. I just hate him. But he did a good job. And at the end, he's by himself on the island. I want to see what happens to him with Jimmy and his cohorts. That's going to be interesting. But yeah, 2 out of 5 stars. Anyway, let me know in the comment section down below what you thought about 28 years later. Are you excited for the sequel? I'm not. Anyway, remember, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new here, and I will talk to you guys next time. Peace.